Growing a business is kind of tricky right now. Supply chains are squeezed, tariffs and trade policies are dynamic, and cash flow, it's tighter than ever. You need clarity to come out on top. Without it, you risk falling behind. If only you could hop in the DeLorean and see the future, right? Thankfully, there's NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite has real-time forecasting to help you move ahead with confidence. This is your AI-powered business management suite and the #1 cloud ERP. Trusted by over 42,000 businesses, NetSuite brings accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR all under one roof. It's your single source of truth, giving you the data and control you need to move quickly. And with AI built in, you can automate the busy work and focus on strategy. NetSuite helps you see what's stuck, what it's costing you, and how to pivot fast. If I were running a business with a lot of moving parts, I'd use NetSuite for full control over everything. Tame the chaos with NetSuite. If your revenues are at least in 7 figures, download the free ebook, Navigating Global Trade, 3 Insights for Leaders at netsuite.com/SPI. That's netsuite.com/SPI. Hey, I get it. You've worked really hard to build up your business, and it's doing great. So great that you need help now. The most important thing for your business is to hire the right people to support it. So how can you find amazing candidates quickly? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you stand out and hire fast. And with Sponsored Jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, Sponsored Jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. And it's one of the largest databases of job seekers, too, giving business owners access to a wide range of candidates. And one of the things I love most about Indeed is the job alerts feature. I get notified when new candidates apply. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/smartpassive. Just go to Indeed.com/smartpassive right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/smartpassive. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed is all you need. You spent months building towards launch day, but when the clock hits 0, your site crashes. Bots swarm, and loyal fans rage on Reddit. That's not good. Fanfare was built to stop that. Fanfare is the drop platform made for high-pressure moments, stampede-proof infrastructure, verified waitlists, and bot filters that actually work. Instead of refunds and rage, you get retention and revenue. And that sounds great to me. Your next launch shouldn't be a gamble. Get Fanfare's 5-step hype drop playbook and learn how to bulletproof your drop at fanfare.io/playbook. Again, that's fanfare.io/playbook. This is the Smart Passive Income Podcast with Pat Flynn, session number 59.
Do the Harlem Shake.
Welcome to the Smart Passive Income Podcast, where it's all about working hard now so you can sit back and reap the benefits later. And now your host. He wants to coach a soccer team someday. Pat Flynn.
Still using a copy-paste website? Break the template trap with Framer. Whether you're overwhelmed by traditional site builders or frustrated with cookie-cutter designs, Framer gives you the freedom to create a site that's professional, polished, and uniquely yours. Framer is the design-first, no-code website builder that lets anyone ship a production-ready site in minutes. It's free to start, allowing you to browse hundreds of pixel-perfect templates or even design something on your own on a totally blank canvas. Add bold animations like appear effects, text effects, parallax scrolling, scroll animations, looping animations, and much more in seconds. The built-in AI handles the heavy lifting, generating starter layouts, and can even translate your entire site to any language. Ready to build a site that looks hand-coded without hiring a developer? Launch your site for free at framer.com and use code SPI to get your first month of pro on the house. That's framer.com, promo code SPI. Framer.com, promo code SPI. Rules and restrictions may apply. Hiring shouldn't be a hassle or a drain on your budget. Upwork is your one-stop shop to find, hire, and pay top freelance talent, saving you time and keeping costs in check all in one place. Companies at every stage turn to Upwork to get things done and find more flexibility in the way that they staff key projects and initiatives by assessing a global marketplace filled with top talent in IT, web development, AI, design, administration support, marketing, and more. And I've personally used them myself and can vouch for them. Posting a job on Upwork is easy. With no cost to join, you can register, browse freelancer profiles, get help drafting a job post, or even book a consultation. From there, you connect with freelancers that get you and can easily hire them to take your business to the next level. Upwork makes the entire process easier, simpler, and more affordable with industry-low fees. Post a job today and hire tomorrow with Upwork. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That is Upwork.com to post your job for free and connect with top talent ready to help your business grow. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com. Go there now. Hey, what's up? This is Pat Flynn, and welcome to session 59 of the Smart Passive Income Podcast. I am finally back. Finally back. Now, what does that mean? That means there hasn't been a podcast for about 2 weeks now, but it wasn't because I wasn't trying. Seriously, trust me, I was trying, but it was because my server was attacked. Yes, attacked. A DOS, denial of service attack, which basically means that someone or something or a lot of someones or somethings out there had the capability to send a ton of requests to my server all at the same time. So much, in fact, that it denied access to my server to regular, normal web traffic. So if in the past 2 weeks you came to my site at smartpassiveincome.com, or even some of my other websites and businesses too, yes, most of my websites were down for an entire week. You probably either got an extremely slow website or no website at all. It was a totally crazy week, especially because, as this was happening, I was traveling to San Francisco and also from San Francisco to Portland. I mean, the timing couldn't have been any better. And obviously I mean that sarcastically. I could go on and on about this, and actually I did in a blog post I just published not 10 minutes ago since starting this recording, all about what happened to the server and what happened as a result of the downtime, including an estimated loss of $12,000. Crazy, right? According to my calculations. Lots of lessons learned, lots of good things actually that came out of this too. So if you're up to reading that blog post about this whole ordeal, you can go to smartpassiveincome.com/server-problems. Server-problems. Anywho, I'm excited to be back. Excited to get the podcast up and rolling again due to the downtime. I have a number of recordings already made for you. Lots of great content, including an interview with Longtail Pro creator Spencer House from Niche Pursuits, whatever your preference is. An interview also with a woman who is self-employed who started a business around potty training babies. Not toddlers, but babies, like 6 to 18 months in age. I can't wait to share that one with you. It's awesome. And then also a roundtable session with my team members, my editor, my videographer, and producer for my recent project, Let Go, my book that's coming out later this month that is on a brand new platform called Snippet. And you'll hear more about that at the end of this session. But in that in that roundtable session, we talk about where we think publishing seems to be headed, what it was like to manage this project that was so much more than a book, actually. There's audio and video involved, and also social media integration too, and what it's like to work on a brand new platform. I'm super stoked to share it with you, but again, more on that at the end of the program today. So for today, here in session 59, I'm really excited to bring on a guest who is actually someone I kept hearing about on Derek Halpern's website, Social Triggers, in his videos, on his podcast. He's a professor of marketing at Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania who just came out with a brand new book, and I was lucky enough to get my hands on an early copy before it was launched, and it was actually a really great, very easy read. And by easy, I mean it was pleasurable. It was actually really quick and easy to understand, and also easy in the way that it kind of breaks down and organizes thoughts behind why things go viral. The book is called Contagious, Why Things Catch On by Jonah Berger. So let's welcome Jonah to the SPI podcast today. How are you doing today, Jonah?
Great, Pat. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure. Again, I heard of you through Derek Halpern from socialtriggers.com many times, so I'm really excited to have you on the show. Now, I'm sure you've been pretty busy lately, especially with your book Contagious coming out. Actually, I think it comes out tomorrow, March 5th. Is that correct?
March 5th in stores everywhere.
That is so. You must be so excited for that. I mean, I can't even imagine. How do you feel right now, like knowing that your book's coming out tomorrow?
I can't wait to go to an actual bookstore and walk in through the front door, go to the front table at Barnes & Noble and actually see it sitting there. It's been a huge labor of love for the past few years. It's coming out in 15 languages. We're really excited about it.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited to dive into it. And again, thank you for sharing some of your valuable time with us. Now, before we get into Contagious and the subtitle is Why Things Catch On, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Jonah Berger?
So I am a marketing professor at the Wharton School, and there I teach issues surrounding social influence, so both word of mouth, what we talk about and share, but also traditional social influence, how we persuade others, how our behavior affects other people's behavior. And I mix teaching and research with a little bit of consulting and other sorts of things on the side.
Nice. Very cool. Now, why did you decide to write Contagious? You know, in a nutshell, what is it about and why did you decide to write about it?
You know, as many people were about a decade ago, I read the book The Tipping Point and was enthralled by that book. I thought it was an amazing book, an amazing research question. Why do things become popular? How do they spread among populations? But I even asked Gladwell at the time, sort of, what research has been done in this area that you'd recommend reading? And there really wasn't much out there, particularly anything about why people talk about and share things, why things go viral, why some products get more word of mouth than others. And so that really kicked off a passion for me to study these issues, which took me through both undergraduate and my PhD, and through the research I've done at Wharton. But all along the way, I thought, wouldn't it be great to share these ideas with others? Often academic writing is very verbose and difficult to read, and hard to understand, yet alone apply. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to share these rich and insightful ideas with others so they can use it to help make their own products and ideas more contagious?
Yeah, I love it. And I have to say it is a very easy read, but it's very exciting and useful information. I was on a plane a couple days ago, and I read through just a ton of it, as much as I could, like really like a big chunk of it in a really short period of time. And I appreciate the way that you've structured it and just, again, how easy it is to consume. It's been very useful to me already. It's got my gears turning in my head, and I'm hoping this interview is going to do the same for the audience today. Now, there is a lot of debate on what makes something, go viral or catch on. Of course, some think it's just pure luck, and we see that when people just put something online, all of a sudden it explodes. And on the other end of the spectrum, some people believe there's a very specific, exact formula. Follow these steps 1, 2, and 3, and you will have a viral video or something like that. Where do you and Contagious lie on that spectrum?
I think it's not random, and it's not luck, and it's not chance. There's a science behind why people talk about and share things and why things go viral. Does that guarantee that, if you follow the principles in this book, you can be the next Gangnam Style and have 1 billion views? Probably not, right? There's a little bit of a magic to that quality, but it's just like baseball, right? Or it's just like any other business activity. What you want to do is increase your batting average, right? You want to increase the chance that people talk about and share your idea, and these are research-based principles that do that. So we've analyzed 7,000 New York Times articles to look at what articles make the most emailed lists. We've looked at over 500 brands to understand why certain brands are talked about and shared. We've looked at YouTube videos and offline content and a whole host of things, and again, we found the same principles coming up repeatedly. It wasn't chance and it wasn't luck. Certain characteristics of ideas, of products, of B2C things, of B2B things, again and again, were linked to more talking and sharing. And so we thought it would be great to explain these principles and show people how to use them to help their own ideas catch on.
Right, absolutely. And you sort of break down the book into these different principles and sections, and those sections are social currency, triggers, emotion, public, practical value, and stories. And I've touched on some of these things slightly on the blog before. I talk a lot about using stories as a way to share information and be remembered, because people are just born to listen to stories, and it gives a personal touch. Emotion, because that's what will get people to take action. But let's start with the first one that you talk about in the book here, social currency. What does that mean? And give us an example, and how does that help something spread, really?
So I think the idea of social currency is very simply, people talk about things that make them look good, right? We care how others think about us. We care whether others want to be friends with us, whether they want to get to know us better, whether they want to take us out on that second date. And what we talk about and share, just like the car we wear, the cars we drive, or the clothes we wear, affects how people see us. So we talk about things that make us look smart and in the know rather than, dumb and behind the times. We talk about how we got invited to a special party, or we know about a new restaurant that's coming up in the neighborhood. We talk about a new tech gadget that we just got, or, recently LinkedIn sent out something, to tell people, hey, you're the top 5% of profiles on LinkedIn. People share those things because it makes them look good. It makes them look like they're special people. But along the way, they're spreading word of mouth about the products and brands that are part of those stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, everyone out there listening right now, just think about the last thing you shared maybe on Facebook or Twitter, and chances are it's going to be something that was pretty much about yourself, or that's going to help you in some way. And even if it was about something else, maybe it's a link to a particular article that you liked, it is really, what you're saying, Jonah, is that we're really doing this to not only just help people, but in fact make ourselves look better, put ourselves on that stage where, hey, we're the ones that found this, check it out.
Yeah, I mean, we're making an impression, we're affecting our impression on others. I think one great example that I talk about in the book is in Philadelphia, there's a restaurant that has a $100 cheesesteak. It's a cheesesteak with lobster and truffles and Kobe beef, and it comes with a bottle of champagne. Now, the first time you hear about that, you go, wow, $100 cheesesteak, that's amazing. If you've tried it, you definitely tell other people. You tell other people because it makes you look special and, wealthy and high status to have tried that sort of product. But even if you haven't tried it, telling other people about it makes you look cool because you know interesting information. You have access to things that maybe other people don't have access to, and it makes you look smart and entertaining.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because just the other day, my friend who frequents Vegas quite a bit, he got comped for X number of dollars and that he had to spend from a particular casino, and he sent me a message with an image that was a receipt where he paid, I think it was $500 for a hamburger from Carl's Jr. And it's this. I guess they have a Carl's Jr. in Vegas where you can buy a hamburger for $500. It just comes with a bottle of Cristal. And that's why, I think, that's why it's so expensive. But that's a perfect example. I mean, he was sharing that, not to like kind of show off, but I mean, because that was cool. But now I know about this, and now I'm sharing it here on the podcast. And so now this message is being spread. No, I love that.
And I think, the funny thing about it is it's hard to see it ourselves doing this, right? We all say, oh, no, I would never do that, right? I would never talk about things to show off, but we can easily see it in other people. Mm-hmm. When our friends do this or our colleagues do it, when someone tweets, oh, I got upgraded to first class, part of they're sharing that is because they're excited, but they're also sharing because they want you to know that they got picked, that they're a special person.
Yeah, absolutely. So from a content creator's point of view, most of us who are listening to this podcast are probably content creators. How can we use social currency? Does this mean we charge a ridiculous amount for something just to get it known? Or, what's the really underlying kind of motivation there as far as social currency is concerned for content creators?
So I talk about a few ways to apply this in the book. One way is to make people feel like insiders. And that's not necessarily just by making something really expensive. There are other ways to make things scarce or exclusive. So Gmail, for example, when they first came out, not everybody had access to the product. You had to know someone who worked at Google who had gotten an invitation. And so by making it seem really exclusive, it built demand for that product, which then encouraged people when it was available to everyone to go snap one up. They felt like they had to get one because it was so exclusive. Same thing with In-N-Out. In-N-Out has a secret menu that you might have heard of before.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the menu isn't even that secret, but the fact that it seems like it's a secret menu makes people want to talk about it and share it because it makes them look cool and in the know. So one thing is to make people feel like insiders, feel like they have special information. Another is to harness the inner remarkability of any product or idea. And so we think some products are naturally more remarkable, things like Hollywood movies or, cool Apple gadgets. But other products are not naturally remarkable, like cement or like blenders, let's say. But a few years ago, and your listeners may be familiar with this, the company Blendtec put together a campaign called Will It Blend that got people to share millions of times a video which is essentially about a blender. Like they showed someone dropping an iPhone in a blender, and they showed that the blender tore that iPhone to shreds. That was pretty remarkable to see. It was amazing that a blender could do something like that. But because it was so amazing, people shared it with others because it made them look good. So again, it's all about finding what that inner part of that product is, not necessarily making it expensive, but what can make people feel like they have access to something special or make them feel like the product is particularly remarkable.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the most recent examples that I've experienced is there's this new iPhone application called Mailbox, which is supposed to revolutionize how we deal with mail through our iPhones or Android phones or whatever. And you sign up and then you're put on this list and it says like you're 500,000 in line or something before you get it, and then it counts down. And I've just like I saw everybody. The reason I got that is because I saw other people sharing it, and they were like 200,000 in line, and so I was like, oh, I got to get on now before I'm 800,000 in line, and that's sort of I feel like another insider scarcity move that they did, and of course they can just release the app like to everybody if they wanted to. I don't know if there's any other maybe technical reasons they're doing that, but from a marketing standpoint, that's a great idea, and that's just like what you were saying earlier.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So the second one, so that's social currency. Second one is triggers. What are triggers? And well, I mean, I think we all have an idea of what are triggers, but specifically for something that goes viral, like what is a trigger? What's an example of a trigger, and how that you talk about?
So just to make sure everyone understands what a trigger is, if someone says peanut butter and, you might think jelly. Or if I said rum and, you might think Coke. And so the idea there is peanut butter is like a little advertisement for jelly. It's a trigger when you see one thing that makes you think about a related idea, product, or thing. And one of my favorite examples of this is actually the song that came out a few years ago by Rebecca Black. So there's this song, it was called Friday. People often say, oh, this is a terrible song, right? If you listen to it, it's about a girl waking up and having breakfast and dealing with those big teenage dilemmas of whether to sit in the front seat or the back seat of her friend's car. It's not really a good song. In fact, some people have called it the worst song of all time, which in itself is sort of an achievement, right? If you can really make the worst song ever, that's pretty impressive. But even though people are saying this song is so bad, it has over 300 million views. It was one of the most viral videos of 2011. And one question is why, right? Why are people talking about it and sharing this song? Well, if you look at the data, you look at the searches on YouTube for Rebecca Black, and you look at them over time, you see there was sort of a big spike in attention, and then it starts to dwindle or go away, but then it spikes back up, and then it dwindles and goes away, but then it spikes back up. And if you look at the spikes, they're not random. They're actually 7 days apart. And if you look closer, you'll notice that they're on Friday. And so while the song Friday is equally bad every day of the week, Friday provides a little reminder, a trigger, to make people think about that song. And not only make people think about it, but to make them watch it and to make them share it with others. And so one reason that song did so well is because it had a prevalent trigger in the environment. Every week, one day of the week, reminded people to think about it and pass it on.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you think... Now, I'm trying to think of an example that I've used where I've sort of kind of spread around based on something that I do, and that is be everywhere. This is this marketing strategy that I have where you don't just put yourself on your blog, you put yourself on your blog, on a YouTube channel, and on a podcast. And with those three mediums, you can kind of take your brand to the next level and reach more people at the same time. And I've noticed a ton of people sort of following this same path after I did this presentation about this in Blog World Expo in LA a couple of years ago. And now what people are saying is that, oh, this person's doing Pat's Be Everywhere strategy, or someone start a podcast and then share their YouTube videos at the same time. That's Pat's Be Everywhere strategy. So it could, like, for us content creators, I really feel naming stuff is very important. Seth Godin talks about this a lot. When you put a name to something and that name is attributed to you, that becomes a trigger for something that represents you, even though it might be going on somewhere else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think we often think about, social currency as I think something marketers think about, right? Oh, I need to make my idea remarkable. I need to make it, sexy. I need to make it exciting. But I think marketers think less about triggers, not just what's something that is great about you, but what's going to make people think about you, even when you're not around. What's a cue or a trigger in the environment that when they see it, they can't get you out of their head. And so I think it's really important not just to be a remarkable idea, but be something that's triggered by the surrounding environment.
Right. Absolutely. Now let's move on to the next one, emotion. I mean, obviously, emotion plays a huge role on why people share stuff, especially when it comes to things that are like political or, those are the kinds of posts that I notice that are being shared on Facebook quite a bit. Stuff that's political, stuff that's controversial, stuff that will get people to really share their true deep down opinions. Can you expand on emotion a little bit as far as stuff that goes viral?
Sure. So you might think that all emotions increase sharing, right? And indeed, there are definitely some emotions that increase sharing. So when we feel really excited about something, we get a new promotion, we love to tell everyone. Or as you just said, maybe if we're really angry about a political issue, we share that information. YouTube videos benefit from how funny they are. So maybe humor also drives sharing. But when you think about it, it's not then just that positive or negative drives sharing. Because the emotions we just talked about, some of them are positive, like excitement or like humor, and some of them are negative, like anger. So if it's not just positivity or negativity, are all emotions lead people to share, or does some increase sharing and some decrease sharing? And what we found in our analysis of over 6 months of New York Times articles is that it's not just the valence of the emotion, the positivity or the negativity, but also whether those emotions activate or arouse the reader. Whether they get your blood flowing, whether they get your pulse quickening, your heart beating faster, whether they activate you or deactivate you. So if you think about, let's say, anger versus sadness, both of those are negative emotions. Neither of those feel very good, but anger is an activating negative emotion. When you're angry, you want to do something. You want to throw something at the television. You want to yell at that customer service representative. When you're sad, you sort of want to power down, right? You want to curl up under the covers or put on your favorite sweatshirt or eat a big bowl of ice cream under the covers. And so because of that, sadness, because it's deactivating, actually decreases sharing. And so we found in our research is not just positive increases sharing and negative decreases it, but that the high arousal emotions, things like positive emotions like excitement or like amusement, humor, increase sharing, but also negative emotions like anger and anxiety. Whereas emotions that deactivate us, negative emotions like sadness, but also positive emotions like contentment lead to less sharing. And so it's really thinking about how activated the emotion that you're evoking will make people feel.
Yeah, I really like that choice of words, activated. What can you do as a content creator, as someone who creates podcasts or writes blog posts or creates videos to actually activate your audience? And I always talk about how, you want to get your audience involved with what you're doing. And I think activate probably is an even better word. Getting them off of their seats almost and start to speak up and share and be almost a part of it, of whatever it is that they're sharing.
Definitely. And I think, a big thing online as well as offline, particularly for small businesses, is turning customers into advocates, right? Turning people who already like your product, turn them into advocates that will bring in new users to create that viral user growth. But to get that to happen, you have to figure out how to get those existing users or those people that like your product to engage and involve themselves, but also bring in new users as well.
Absolutely. And there's probably, that in itself could be an entire podcast episode about. Now let's move on because I know we're, you obviously have a lot of stuff going on, and we have 3 more things to cover in the sections of your book. Public. Okay. When you talked about this in your book, it sort of reminded me of social proof. The fact that's one person, you see a group of people using something or talking about something, that automatically makes you want to be involved with that too, or use that thing. And for you give the example, you start out talking about Steve Jobs here, and I love this example about the logo. Can you talk about that a little bit?
The Steve Jobs logo example? Yeah. So I think this is a great example and a very simple example that involves social proof in public. So a number of years ago, Jobs was dealing with a particular issue with their laptop. Very simple issue, but an important one. Apple had always designed their products with the user in mind. They wanted it to be as easy as possible and as beneficial to users as possible. So everything from the customer service to the way when you open your iPhone box it feels were all designed with the customer in mind. And the laptop was the same way. So when you take a laptop out of your bag, the problem is, well, which way should face you? Which way has the latch on it to open up? If you face the wrong way, you have to turn it around. Not a big issue, but easily solved by design. They put a logo on the top, and they had that logo like a compass. You took the laptop out of your bag, and it was closed, and the logo was facing you. It was the right side, and you could open it right up. And that was great. It made it really easy for users, but Jobs found that there was one problem. When people opened up the laptop, the logo was actually upside down. Everyone else had a harder time seeing the logo. And so, while they usually made the customer first, that idea the customer's always right, we should fit around the customer. In this case, they actually flipped the logo. They turned it from facing the customer to facing the audience because they wanted to make it easier to see which laptop people are using. And that very simply is just the idea of public that we talk about in the book. We tend to imitate others, right? When we don't know what to do, we tend to look to others for information. But if we can't see what they're doing, it's really hard to imitate it. And so to make that social influence work, we have to make the private public. We have to make it easier to see other people's behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's some sort of intuitive part of as being a human is it's just wanting to be a part of a group. And when you see a group of people doing something or I mean, I think you use the example, and I've heard this example before of you go, you're looking for a place to eat and you're not really sure where to go, but then you notice the restaurant with the longest line. And obviously that group of people there, you don't even know who they are, but because they're all there together at that one particular restaurant, there must be something great about that particular restaurant. And that's why I feel like social proof is an incredibly important part of doing business online, but it can also hurt you too, because you can also share things that might make you not as favorable as you'd like. A lot of people will admit, they see big bloggers put their subscriber count at the top of their sites, so they'll do it too, but then it only shows there's like 50 people following them, and you don't really want to,
right.
You don't want to showcase that right away, and so you want to approach your stuff in a way as if you're an outsider. And so if you were to see 50 people following your site, it may not be a good thing. But really, and you could be creative as far as social proof is concerned. I mean, it's not just about how many comments you have on your post or how many people have downloaded your email list, but there's a lot of. I mean, it's really niche dependent, but there's a lot of different ways you can use social proof to really take your message to the next level and have people spread the word about you even more.
Definitely. I mean, we can think about it in the offline world, examples that use color for instance. So, some companies, rather than having their product delivered in a usual brown box, they have it delivered in a green box that has their logo big on the outside, which encourages everyone to see, what kind of product someone got delivered and encourages them to do the same thing. And so it's just all about making it more visible that people like your product or like your idea.
Yeah, and I think Derek used this as uses the example of the white headphones that Apple uses too. Going back to another Apple example, and I know it's kind of cliche to use Apple as an example sometimes, but it's so perfect here because when you, I mean, this goes back to triggers too. I mean, when you'd walk around and you see people wearing the white headphones, I mean, that's an Apple product, but it's also social proof for that particular person that. Apple's, you see everybody wearing them. And so that's trigger and social proof for Apple. And it almost makes you want to go and get one yourself because you want to be kind of cool like everybody else. And just like those commercials with the colored background and the white silhouette dancing with the white earphones. I mean, it's all choreographed very well.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Okay. So a couple more, let's talk about practical value. Now, this sounds obvious as far as what gets shared. Obviously you want it to have value, but define practical value. What does that mean to you exactly, and how does it help us?
I think the idea of practical value is just very simply useful information, news that you or someone else can use. People often want to help others, as you noted, and so things that save them time, things that save them money, make them healthier. If you use sunscreen, some friend of yours may send you an article about the best sunscreens. If they know you're buying a car, reviews about a particular car. If they know you're into restaurants, they might send you restaurant reviews. All these are things that make your life better and easier. And in terms of applying these concepts, you need to think about, well, how is your product or idea useful? And how can you create, and we'll talk about in the story, so sort of a Trojan horse story that shows how practically valuable you are to others. Right? So if you're providing a service that helps people solve a problem, how can you craft a narrative that shows your potential audience members, hey, this is how useful this product is. This is how this product helped me solve a problem, how it made my life better. And to the degree that it is useful information, people share it because they want to make others better off.
Yeah, I think that's very important. And although that sounds very simple and almost obvious, I mean, a lot of people, especially online marketers and people doing business online, they think too much about what the product is and what the service is about, not the benefits that they can give to whoever's consuming that product or information. And this is really comes down to the difference between benefits and or features and benefits. And a lot of people will go days and days and days talking about the features of something, and because that's what they probably spent most of their time building or making sure worked or whatever. But it's really, what does that feature do, or how can that feature help whoever it is that's going to be consuming that information or product? And one trick I like to use is the so that test. If you have a feature and then you follow it up by so that, and then you can answer that the final part of that question or fill in the blank. That's how you know what the value is, or if that thing may even have any sort of value. So my product has X, so that Y, and if you can't answer that Y, then you might have a problem. So really thinking about the end user first, and really just how practical. I mean, it even comes down to like what you said, time, health, and money. That those are some of the triggers that people have, and that's what people that ties into emotion and a lot of the other things you're talking about.
And that's a really, I think, subtle to some people, but very important point, that difference between feature and benefit. I mean, people don't like to seem like a walking advertisement. They're not going to go on and on about the features of the product, but they will go on and on about how the product made them better off, talking about the benefits of the product. And along the way, they're spreading word of mouth about that product.
Absolutely. Now, finally, you talk about stories, and stories is one of my favorite topics to talk about, just because stories is what got me inspired to do business online. It was an interview I heard of a guy who started teaching the project management exam, and his story that got me really inspired. It was also the story from a guy named Sean Noonan, who he and his wife are making a living by teaching people how to speak Indonesian through their site, learningindonesian.com, which was, that story is still implanted in my head, and that inspired me to go down this route. Now, you talk about stories, and you give a number of different stories. Obviously, in the other sections, stories is what makes this book and what makes those sections memorable, but also you dedicate an in chapter, and I think it's really cool how this is the very last chapter to kind of push everything together. But you talk about something called a Trojan horse as far as stories are concerned. And I think a lot of us know the story of, the Trojan horse and what that was like. But, using stories as a technique, such as a Trojan horse was a technique. How tell us about what that means exactly.
Yeah, and as you alluded to, stories are really important. But I think the one detail that this chapter adds is that stories often carry something inside them, just like a Trojan horse. There's often a candy shell or an exterior that's either practically useful information or something that has social currency, but along the way, the brand or the benefit comes along for the ride. So we can think of, for example, the Will It Blend example that I like a lot, that I think we talked about briefly. Mm-hmm. The fact that a blender can cut through an iPhone, isn't that amazing? People share that because it's a remarkable product. They can't believe that a blender can do that. But along the way, they're not advertising. That's not their goal. But along the way, they're sharing the BlendTech name and talking about the benefits of the product, how strong that product is, how amazingly strong that product is, how it can cut through anything. And so while they're not trying to advertise, they actually are sharing that information because it's hidden inside the story or narrative. Or think about Subway. Subway had that ad campaign a few years ago, and the story went around about Jared, this mm-hmm. guy who lost 200 pounds or something, basically by eating Subway sandwiches. He was way overweight. He started going on a Subway diet. He ate Subway for lunch and dinner, and he lost all this weight on Subway sandwiches. People don't like being a walking advertisement for Subway, but they will share the story about this guy who lost 200 pounds by eating sub sandwiches. That's an amazing story. It's a remarkable story, but it's also a Trojan horse for the Subway brand. Along the way, people are talking about Subway, and they're talking about the benefits that Subway provides, how they have healthy subs that can help you lose weight. And so it's all about not only creating a story, but wrapping that story around you, right? Wrapping that narrative around your brand or your benefit. People can't help by talking about your brand or your benefit along the way while they're sharing that great narrative.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you purposely choose the words Trojan horse because that's also, or Trojan, because that's also the name of a virus? And you're talking about
I did.
Stuff going viral.
That's very, very clever. I'm unfortunately not that. You are cleverer than I am. I didn't think about that.
Well, I was going to say that was awesome. I like that. I love little Easter eggs like that. So, I mean, you could feel free to say you did that. I mean,
I will borrow that from you. Thank you.
You're welcome. But I really like that. And your story about Jared, or talking about the Subway story with Jared, reminds me of the story that I tell about Joe Cross from Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, who was extremely overweight as well, but did a 60-day juicing fast just drinking the whole time. He didn't chew for like 60 days. And he lost a ton of weight. He got rid of his chronic skin disease. And he told that story through a documentary. That was his story. And that what I also love about stories is it really gets you invested as a listener, or vested. And you know, you become emotionally tied to these people when they tell a good story. Obviously, there's bad stories and good stories, but this was a good story. And what ended up happening is this, quote, Trojan horse of a story got me to buy a juicer not within 30 minutes after watching that documentary. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I literally had a receipt from Amazon for a Breville juicer, the same exact one that he used, because I wanted to get the same, you know, health benefits. I mean, I wasn't that overweight, but I have been juicing ever since, and I love it. And so now I'm spreading the story, and this particular story is now my Trojan horse for people to go buy a Breville juicer. I don't know, but I get what you're saying, and that's so true. So,
but I think that's, I mean, a perfect example again of if he instead had said, "Buy this juicer, it's so great, you should buy this juicer," you probably would have been turned off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would have sounded too much like an advertisement. You would have not been interested in the juicer. But the fact that it was told in a story encouraged you to listen and pay attention, and got you to buy in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know for me personally that I have a great story as far as, you know, how I came to be and how I was laid off and just almost accidentally started this website teaching people how to pass an exam in the architecture industry, and exploded. And I know that's a good story, and I know it is. I don't want to say a Trojan horse, because that almost has like a negative connotation to it, especially for, you know, tech geeks and stuff like that. But it is my way of introducing myself and what I do and what I teach to people in a way that can connect with people through that story. Not just, hey, come to my site and learn how to make an online business. It's, this is my story. This is how I did it. Maybe you can use some of my examples and do it yourself too.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's a great example.
So, Jonah, I mean, we just touched the surface on Contagious. I mean, I really recommend this book for everybody. It's again a quick, but it's an amazing and very informative read, and I can't wait to share it with everybody. Jonah, just thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing everything with us. If there's, you know, besides getting the book Contagious, where else can people find out more about you?
So we've built a website, jonahberger.com, which, in addition to telling people about the book and where they can get it, actually has a bunch of free online resources to help you not only read the book, but apply the concepts from the book. So we have a workbook that helps people walk through each of the steps in the book and how they can apply them to their business. We have a one-pager for an easy reference guide, and a host of other content that can help people out. So that's it, just Jonah, Jonah, Berger, Berger.com. And also, if people are interested, they can follow me at Twitter. I'm at J1Berger there, and tweet about everything related to word of mouth and virality, but also consumer behavior more broadly.
Awesome. Love it, Jonah. Thank you so much. And, you know, good luck with the book launch, and I'm sure we'll cross paths again soon.
Pat, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care. All right. Thank you all for listening to today's session, an interview with Jonah Berger, author of Contagious. Like I said, I definitely recommend it, and you can get your copy through my link at smartpassiveincome.com/contagious. And that is an Amazon affiliate link. So if you go through that link, I will get a small commission. And of course, I thank you for that. I also wanted to share a new website I created. Yes, a new website, which I'm really stoked about, actually. This website was actually created as a result of all the new projects I have going on this year and planning ahead for the future. It's a personal website you can find at patflynn.me. I actually tried to get patflynn.com, and the guy who owns it, he's super nice. Obviously, he has a pretty cool name, and he's sticking with it, and I respect him for that. I even offered quite a bit of money for it. We're talking high four figures for the site, and not an inch of budge. So again, just to that, Pat Flynn, awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. So I figured that patflynn.me is the next best thing. So if you go there, you'll be met with a nice, responsive WordPress theme design. So check it out on your mobile phones and your iPads too. And please make sure to check out the Let Go project that's currently featured on that site. Again, this is the book that is coming out later this month. If you're not listening to this in the future and it's out already, it's a book that's being launched on a brand new publishing platform called Snippet. I'm honored completely honored to be one of the first few authors to be publishing on this revolutionary platform that combines the best worlds of books and blogging. Like books, there are chapters in each snippet that you read. However, each chapter is limited to only 1,000 words. So like blogs, it's a quick and easy digestible read. And in addition to that, and my absolute favorite part of this entire thing is that these books, these snippets, incorporate what they call discoverables. So while you're reading, you may find a relevant video or an audio or images that pop up. And it also integrates social media, which is really cool. This is why actually I was in San Francisco last week, because I was actually filming video footage for discoverables within the snippet book. Again, the name of mine is called Let Go. So no matter when you are listening to this, I encourage you to visit patflynn.me/letgo, no spaces, and you'll see either the teaser trailer, which is available now at the time of this recording, or it might be the full-length trailer, and of course access to the snippet when it becomes available. So I hope you check it out if you have the chance. If you do, I hope it inspires you in some way. Show notes for this podcast session can be found at smartpassiveincome.com/session59. And here's to you and your success. I will see you in session number 60. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Smart Passive Income Podcast at www.smartpassiveincome.com.
Look, I get it. You want to grow your business, but trying to sell to hundreds or even thousands of people gets very exhausting very fast. But what if you could sell at scale with a simple, powerful quiz? ScoreApp helps you sell to more people without adding more to your plate. You build a quiz or assessment that your audience actually wants to take. Then they answer a few quick questions and get a personalized result right away. It shows them where they're at and what they need to do next and how you can help. And you build huge amounts of trust before you make even a single offer. No hard sell, no chasing leads, just value at scale. Get 50% off the first 3 months using the discount code SPI. All you have to do is just head to scoreapp.com/SPI. Again, that's scoreapp.com/SPI. Have you dreamt about being your own boss, but still haven't made the first steps to making that dream a reality? Well, I get that. Starting a business can feel super overwhelming with legal forms, paperwork, finances. It's a lot. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about Taylor Brands. Taylor is a complete business builder designed to make launching your business simple and stress-free. You can register your LLC in just minutes, keeping your personal assets and the business assets separate from day one. From there, you get access to everything you need to get off the ground. Legal documents, licenses and permits, invoicing and bookkeeping tools, and even a 100-day business coaching program, all designed to help you hit the ground running. You'll also get a free, personalized business plan, branding tools, and so much more. And of course, listeners of this show get an exclusive 35% discount to get started. All you have to do is head to taylorbrands.com/SPI. That's TAILORBRANDS.com/SPI. Stop dreaming, start building with Taylor Brands.